let's say that we have this final assembly here and it's due on this date. Imagine each of my vertical lines is 1 day. So I've got this assembly due out here on this date. APS is going to backward plan the routing and the bill of material for that final assembly. So it comes in here and says, okay, you've got 3 operations and they each take 2 days to do. So we're going to do those 3 through here. And we need material for operation 10. And it so happens that that material is also manufactured. We've got 2 operations here that take 5 days to do.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining from. Welcome to today's show, and this is part of our joint webinar series. And today we have one of the best educators that I know, I guess, in the Infor community. This is going to be related to Infor Sightline, but Mark is going to talk about APS as a broader concept. This is also one of the most popular webinars that we have done. A lot of people have already inquired that they wanted to learn about APS. So I'm so excited about today's session. If you joined for the first time, we have multiple series running as part of webinar. So this is the joint where we partner with some of our friends. And then we have some of the process-specific sessions. They talk about ERP methodology, any sort of questions that you are going to have from the ERP selection implementation perspective. Then we do a lot of product reviews. We have those webinars as well. If you want to be updated about these webinars, the best place for this would be events and webinars page on elevate.iq.com, or you can subscribe to our newsletter, and you are going to hear a lot of different announcements there. So now let's just start with this session. I'm going to start with quick intros, and Mark, then I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. So Sam Gupta here, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent vendor agnostic technology strategy, system selection, and change management firm. On that note, Mark, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Sam. It's really nice to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone. I'm going to start my PowerPoint because I've got a slide that will introduce me.
Perfect. I like it. It's coming in. I'll give you thumbs up as soon as I can see it, and I can see it, Mark.
Oh, good. Technology that works. I love it.
Yeah.
So hi, everyone. My name is Mark Feldhammer. I founded Logic Data. Logic Data is a ERP implementation firm based in Denver, Colorado, but really across the United States. We have staff in various and sundry places in the Americas. Started it 40 years ago. Yes, it's our 40th anniversary. It's pretty cool. So that's who I am. And I've been focused on a product called Infor Sightline Cloud Suite Industrial for the majority of my career. My company, Logic Data, we've serviced many, many companies and helped them get ERP systems up and running. We've helped implement advanced planning and scheduling, today's topic. And so we have a lot of experience and anecdotes in this industry, and especially for manufacturers. Infor is the author of Cloud Suite Industrial, and big company, $3.5 billion in revenue, 60,000 customers across quite a broad product mix. We're part of their partner network and have been so since Infor 4. I'll be talking about advanced planning and scheduling, but I'll be talking about it from the particular point of view of Cloud Suite Industrial, also known as Sightline. This is Infor's ERP system. This is what Logic Data sells and services and implements, and it has arguably one of the best APS implementations of any ERP system in the world. So I use it as the model of really good practice on what should APS be and what should APS do. So that said, what we're going to cover today is a mini agenda. We're going to look at the difference between APS, and many of you already know the term MRP. We'll define that and define the difference. Then we're going to dive into APS planning logic. How does APS think? And I'll just forewarn you, I'm not going to show you software screens just yet. We're going to show those a little later today, because before you see the software, you have to understand what's going on under the covers. So I want to show you how APS thinks and how it works before I actually show you what you would touch as a user in order to interact with APS. We'll talk about capacity planning, finite and infinite capacity. We'll talk about some of the tips for setting up the system and using the system. So that said, let's get right into it here. If you don't already know, and I would assume many people do, what is material requirements planning? This is a technique of inventory planning that was created, oh gosh, in the 50s, actually. I actually met one of the programmers who wrote the first MRP program for Xerox. But it's a set of techniques that uses all of your information to plan your materials. It doesn't plan production, it doesn't schedule your shop floor. It's mainly looking at how do I plan my purchase orders and when do I need jobs to be complete to manufacture goods across my shop floor. It was okay for its day, and it kind of thinks like this. Here's an interactive diagram for you. Let's say that each of these dark blue boxes was a different customer order or a different demand. Excuse me. And beneath that demand, there's a routing and a bill of material on what is it going to take to make this item. Sam, I just got told my voice is a little off. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you okay. I can hear you. Yeah.
All right, we'll keep going.
Yeah.
So we've got these three demands. What does MRP do? It looks across and looks for similar items. So it plans level by level. Once it's got this figured out, then it says, well, if I'm going to do that, I need to do this. If I'm going to do that, I need to do this. So it plans each level of the BOM, trying to net together similar items before it goes to this next level below. Well, what's wrong with that? It doesn't plan in the past. It does plan in the past. It's going to tell you, hey, you should have issued a purchase order 3 weeks ago. It ignores your capacity constraints. It won't tell you when you can get it done. So I've got this order. Okay, I understand I can't meet the due date. What's the projected date? When could I tell the customer we'll deliver? Or the order is already in my system and some targets haven't been met. When am I going to, how do I know that I'm going to be late? What are my alerts? And if I need to crawl down the bill of material and see where my component shortages are, MRP makes that really hard to do. So introducing APS. APS was developed in the 90s, and it does something called single threading. It looks at each individual demand and plans it from top to bottom. It then also looks at your capacity and where you have constraints, and it'll stop you from overloading those things that you defined as finite capacity. It projects a date when you can deliver, and it reserves all the supply and capacity to your promised date, so you don't then miss it because somebody else stole your material or stole the capacity of a work center. So how does this look in comparison to MRP?
And I'm going to have a quick comment here, Mark. If you want to grab water or something, you can do that. Guys, if you have any sort of questions, comments, feel free to post on Q&A or chat. We will be reviewing those questions as we go along in the session. Looking forward to reviewing those. Mark, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Sam. All right. So what does APS do? Again, we have those three demands. These could be customer orders or whatever they may be, asking for certain items to be shipped. APS looks at the first demand completely. It crawls down the bill of material and reserves material, reserves capacity, and says to you, I can deliver this on the first of the month. Then it looks at the next demand, and the demand are sequenced usually by priority of due date. And it says, okay, this is due later than the first one. I'm not going to steal anything from the first one, but we're going to go ahead and plan down its bill of material, and then the third one. So we're doing this, what's called single threading. We're planning from the top all the way through the bottom of each bill of material for each item being demanded, and we're reserving everything we need to make sure this can happen. Once that's done, APS does take a pass through and look and see, well, do we have any similar items that we can net together? Maybe there's, 15 widgets on product A and 15 widgets on product B. Let's issue one purchase order for 30 widgets rather than two purchase orders for 15. That's a natural part of the APS planning process. You set the parameters to drive that. But this whole different way of looking at it, instead of level by level like MRP does, looking at it single threaded, gives you incredible power. Now, how does it actually do this? Let's say that we have this final assembly here and it's due on this date. Imagine each of my vertical lines is one day. So I've got this assembly due out here on this date. APS is going to backward plan the routing and the bill of material for that final assembly. So it comes in here and says, okay, you've got 3 operations and they each take 2 days to do. So we're going to do those 3 through here. And we need material for operation 10. And so happens that that material is also manufactured. And we've got 2 operations here that take 5 days total. First operation has material with a 2-day lead time. Second operation, or really first operation, also has material with a 2-day lead time. So it backward planned this demand and says, okay, you can do that. You can do that if you start today. Start today, I can make this date. But what happens if that last material had to be ordered yesterday? Now APS goes, well, I can't do that. You don't have a time machine. I can't send you back to yesterday to talk to the vendor and have it shipped for tomorrow. So APS then shifts this, says, okay, that material is going to come in a day late, which means this operation starts a day later. The next operation starts a day later. The material for it's not needed. The subassembly is going to be later, and the whole final assembly moves out. And we get a projected date, in this example, 1 day later than the due date you requested. Now, I want you guys to think about if you're in a manufacturing facility and an order entry person and someone calls for a manufactured product that you don't stock, how do you figure out when that product can ship? I've seen some situations where the order entry person has to go walk the shop floor, talk to the supervisors. When can we make this? Talk to purchasing, talk to inventory. Do we have the inventory for this? APS sees all this in one pass and literally in seconds will tell the operator, when can I promise this customer his order? Now, the other thing that happens here is APS can be set up selectively to consider capacity in a finite model or consider capacity in an infinite model. So first, before we delve deeper into that, just consider if we have a work center that's open 8 hours a day, and it's open Monday through Friday. We have 2 jobs that are both due on Tuesday, and they both take 16 hours, meaning any one of these jobs is going to take 2 days to produce. But we said we only have 8 hours of capacity. So when APS tries to schedule something into a finite resource, it takes that first job and says, okay, we're going to run it on Monday and Tuesday. And it says, well, I got no room after that. I've consumed 8 hours a day. So then it's going to grab the second job and it wants to shove it into Monday and Tuesday, but it can't. So it shoves it over here into Wednesday and Thursday. So in this model where you're out of capacity, the system will tell you when you're going to be late. Job number 2 is going to be 2 days late. If, however, we decided we wanted to use a finite model, so the top is the old model I just showed you. This is the infinite model. I'm sorry, this is the finite model. The bottom is the infinite model. And again, we have 2 jobs, same jobs. It loads the first job into Monday and Tuesday, just like it did in the finite model. But in an infinite model, it wants to load that second job. It ignores whatever's been loaded before and loads the second job. And now what you're going to see on the screens are, hey, you're 100% over capacity in this work center. So what do you want to do? Do you want to handle the capacity of the work center and flex it? Or do you want to call the customer and tell them you're going to be late? Or perhaps outsource something so you're not late. So these are 2 different philosophies looking at the same problem. And APS handles both. So when you set this up, and I'll show you some of this, you define your capacity constraints. You define who the people are, what shifts they work, how much time it takes for a routing operation to occur, how many hours per piece or pieces per hour. You set all of that data up, and APS then reads it and concludes for you. So how do you set up a resource? So let's say we've got 3 people on the floor, Joe, Bob, and Ann, and we need 2 different skill sets. So at the bottom, the CNC operators, that's a resource group. It's a group of operators, or a group of press operators on the right. Well, it could be that Joe, he knows how to run CNC. That's all he's trained to do. And she's only trained to run presses. But Bob, he can run presses or CNCs. So he's a flex resource. Now, this model is very flexible and very different than most models. Most models would just have the CNCs be a work center, and Joe would be assigned to that work center, and maybe Bob would be assigned to the work center. And we have a separate work center called press operators that Bob can't be assigned to because he's already been assigned to CNC. That's the old model with shop floor scheduling, is by work center, and then you stick the resources into the work center. In Cloud Suite Industrial and Advanced Planning and Scheduling, we can have Bob and Joe be members of multiple groups, and they can flex during the day based on demand, moving between CNC, packaging, inspection, wherever they're needed based on the schedule that's been developed. And we can make it more complex. Let's say, well, he's only available on the first shift and she's available on the second shift. Of course, this applies as well to your machines. Your machines are resources, and so you set those up with an APS and what shift they're available. Generally, machines are available 24/7 or across all your shifts, but Bob and Ann may swap servicing that machine. So if you have questions, throw them in the chat box, but I'm going to dive into software.
We do have some questions, Mark, if you want to take those right away.
Absolutely.
So we have one question from Josh. I'm going to read that first, and then you can respond. Can you please speak to the importance of release control and discipline, both from a planner and operator transaction perspective, as it relates to APS, using correct information along with any tips or tricks to help build that culture?
So there was release control at the start of that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Okay. Big
yeah.
question. So, and you're right. We call it launch control. So let's say we have a job that's due at the end of April 30th, and here we are sitting in March, and the job's going to take a week. We don't want you to release the job now. We want you to leave it in the mind of APS so we can flex that job. There may be other demands, there may be more demand for the same items. So instead of releasing a job for 10, maybe we need a job for 20. Maybe some of that material, if we release the job early, it's going to get allocated to the job that should have been used for some other job. So the whole idea of launch control is wait until the job really needs to be on the floor. It doesn't need to be on the floor 6 weeks earlier than it's due.
So I'm going to have a follow-up question there, Mark, for you, if you don't
Sure.
mind. So
Absolutely.
some customers, I mean, as you know, when we discuss with them, and they all have different constraints, and sometimes they don't want to listen to us, I guess. So we all know that, right? So let's say if they, and again, I mean, if they have never used an ERP system or APS system, obviously they are going to have a little fluid process, is probably the best I can define. So they are going to say, you know what, I'm going to release these jobs, and that's how I work. And I plan as we go, and I make changes as we go, as you know, right? Especially with the companies that just don't know how to use MRP or APS. What would be your comment to them? I know that you are probably going to prescribe that do not release, but there are going to be some constraints, and sometimes they are not going to listen to you, and they are going to say, you know what, I'm going to release because that's how I work.
Mm-hmm. Understand. And some people want that fluidity. They want the flexibility of saying, hey, that job that's due in April, I want it on the floor now. Just in case I have downtime, I can run that job right away.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You can do that as long as you recognize the problems that may result by allocating material to that job that wasn't planned for a month. Now you might be stealing from Peter to pay Paul. You might be taking material from another job in order to run this job. You know, one of the classic things I hear is, oh, we're coming to the end of the month. we have a quota of dollars that we have to deliver, and we're short, let's say $100,000.
Yeah.
What jobs can we pull in to make that number? Yeah, but what jobs are you pushing out as a result of pulling those in? Maybe these jobs are going to take space that was allocated on the CNC machine, or they're going to grab materials. So yeah, you got the extra 100,000 out, but you killed $150,000 of jobs that you couldn't get out the door as a result. So we have what's called a what if environment. We can do a what if statement and say, hey, copy my shop floor over here, bring these jobs in. Now tell me the differences. What have I made late as a result of doing this? But there are always ramifications to these things. And as long as you're aware of that, if you want to pull the job in, that's fine. You can do it. We just set a system up for a customer where the planner's workbench showed when the job should be released based on APS, but then it also showed when it could be released as the earliest date.
Yeah.
To give that person some information that they can make a judgment call with.
Yeah, could not agree more. And as long as you understand the implications, I guess that's where the play is. Your equation is probably going to be off. So you need to know that. Now we have one more comment here, Mark, from Kate. And Kate is saying all based on accurate item lead times, tricky. And obviously tricky is the right word, at least in this environment right now, today. I don't think you can plan anything. But you need to be close, I guess. That's the intent as far as my understanding goes of APS.
You're absolutely right. I mean, if I plan an item that has a component that has a 6-week lead time in my system, but that vendor really can't deliver it for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
I haven't updated that lead time on that item. Then yes, we're going to plan this item to be manufactured in 8 weeks when it really can't be manufactured for 10 weeks, and we have problems. It is so important in today's environment that we're constantly talking to our vendors, constantly talking about lead times, constantly updating the system. And yeah, that's a lot of overhead, but if you're trying to give your customers accurate due dates, what else could you do today other than just be constantly asking your vendor for information? And there's products that will assist that. It'll push out requests to vendors. What's your current lead time? You can automate that request.
Yeah.
So it updates the system on the back end without you having to pick up the phone. But that's the issue. And when you find out, maybe it's a temporary slow, maybe the vendor is a 6-week lead time, but right now they can't deliver anything for, let's see, we're on the 12th of March and they can't deliver anything until, let's say, the 15th of June, right? So you can go in our system, you can go in and put in an earliest purchase date of 15th of June for that item. There's no purchase orders out there for it, but now APS will see, oh, I can't do a 6-week lead time because right now we're 10 weeks. The 15th of June is the soonest I can plan for anything to come in, and off you go.
Yeah, could not agree more, Mark. Thank you so much for those. And we have a very engaged room here, so we have some more comments. If you don't mind, we can go get through them, and then we can get to the software. So we have one comment from Robert, and he is asking, how do you identify if the plan that is a month out is needed for a plan that is projecting late at the CO level, which is the change order, I believe, right?
Customer. So you have a planned replenishment a month out, some item that the system's saying you need to build 50 of these in April, but you have a customer order for the same item right now. I'm not sure I have my wits around the question.
So maybe, Robert, if you have a follow-up comment there, let me try to understand this again. So he's asking, how do you identify if the plan that is a month out, so plan is a month out, is needed for a plan that is projecting late at the customer order level. So customer order level, the plan is different than the actual plan? Because
I don't see why that would be.
Yeah.
And why do I have a plan out a month from now without a demand? If the customer order is now, yeah, maybe the system can't satisfy it right now, so it plans it and says, well, as soon as I can satisfy it is a month from now. So the customer order is projected to be late 1 month. And now it's up to you to see if, well, can I work overtime? Can I expedite materials? Can I pull it in at all? But there shouldn't be a plan just sitting out there a month away with no demand.
Yeah, so Robert, maybe provide some more context here. Maybe we need some coffee here, more coffee, more caffeine, for us to understand the question. But if you can provide some more context, that will be helpful.
Yeah, Sam,
Kate,
I've got my coffee in an IV unit sitting in my arm here. So
you have a lot more. I'm telling you, I don't have as much caffeine because my head is not working today. But we have one more question here from Cade. So Cade is asking, okay, can lead times be different in different single site, multi-site warehouses? Single site,
well, let's see. So in a single site, the lead time is at the item master. So it would be the same lead time for all warehouses. We're talking specifically here at Cloud Suite Industrial. Um, if you're multi-site Cloud Suite Industrial, lead time is specific to each site. Um, I'm assuming you're thinking in terms of I'm issuing a purchase order to a vendor and I want him to ship the goods to my LA facility or to my New York facility. To LA, he's got a 2-day lead time. To New York, he's got a 4-day lead time. And unless those facilities are separate sites versus warehouses, no.
that would be my take as well. So this was completely dependent upon your material flow and how they are allocated, I guess,
Mhm.
across those sites. So again, Kate, if you have more context there, maybe. Okay, so she's asking, okay, sorry, single site, multiple warehouses. Okay, so now that's easier. So I think there was a little mix up there. So now she's talking about single site, multiple warehouses. So she's saying that the answer is no. Um,
That's correct. That's correct. Not without some sort of personalization. Uh, there is transit time between warehouses, but there's not different purchasing lead time between warehouses.
and that is because the item master is shared between those warehouses. You don't have a different item master and different lead times configured at the warehouse level. Is that a fair assessment, Mark?
That is a fair assessment. And APS is looking at for a standard lead time regardless of the ship to. Um, Now, if you made the item transferred from the main warehouse to an auxiliary warehouse and you put in a transit time and you issued the purchase order to the main warehouse, APS could go, okay, well, it's going to take a day to get to the main warehouse and 2 days to get to the other. But that gets pretty hairy. So the simple answer is no.
So I guess, I mean, this could be related to how you want to configure your site, and sometimes there could be organizational problem, and that is something we deal with, I guess, a lot. So if you have the warehouse shared in a similar site environment, why would you have different lead times for those warehouses for the same item, right? So that's where I guess you probably need to organize your item in a manufacturing site. Generally, you are going to have probably three different warehouses, which is going to be some sort of raw material, WIP, and finished good. And then each of those are going to have the individual item. I don't know why the same item would have different lead times. Is that possible in your experience, Mark?
Only in the example I gave before, where maybe your vendor is in Southern California and it takes
Yeah.
them a day to ship it to your LA warehouse, but 5 days to ship it to your New York warehouse.
But those would be different sites because they are in different locations.
Not necessarily. In Cloud Suite Industrial, I can have one facility or one manufacturing site, and I can have a dozen warehouses that belong to that facility scattered across the country. Typically, those warehouses are used for distribution of product, not so much for purchasing of product. So you bring up a good point, Sam. If I'm purchasing into the New York warehouse, why am I doing that? Am I manufacturing there? Is that purchased good a sub-assembly that New York now
Yeah.
needs to have a routing and bill of material, in which case they're a site or a separate plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have, sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay. You still had something there?
No, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. So we have one more question here. So the question is, can APS handle multi-constraint scheduling simultaneously? For example, can it simultaneously consider machine capacity, specific tool availability, material constraints, and skilled labor shortages for a single job?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that's so cool about APS. It looks across all those constraints. So you can have, as you point out, you can have a machine, you can have tools for the machine, you can have 3 required operators from a specific skills group, all there. So it's going to constrained by that capacity and make sure I can get all those people there at the same time and the machine's available and the tool available. And it's going to look and see, well, but do I have the material to even start? Oh, wait, the material doesn't come in for a week. So although I've had these people available tomorrow, I really can't start this for a week. So it's going to look and see if I have capacity on those people and equipment a week from now. This is what APS does and why it's so cool.
It is so cool, Mark. Thank you so much once again. So I think those are different questions that we had. If you guys have more questions, please comment. We want to make this as interactive as possible. Mark, over to you. I don't want to hijack your agenda. I know you have a lot to show and talk. You can talk for the whole day about APS, I guess. You know so much.
Hey, it's fun stuff. I tell people that most of your ERP system, it's just data trapping and spitting data out. You
Yeah.
put in the customer order, it spits out a shipping ticket, or spits out a purchase order, or spits this out, or spits that out. APS, you actually teach it to think. You have to teach it to think the way you want your shop run, and it's actually a lot of fun. Let me find the right screen here. Oh, there it is. I knew I had it up here somewhere. All right, let's carry on. I want to show you some things about how people would use APS in a typical environment. Firstly, what I'm showing you here is called an engineering board. I've got a mythical part, an AP100. I'm just called it's a finished APS item. You can think of this as any part you might manufacture as a bill of material and a routing. In this diagram, you can see that this particular item has two operational steps. It's going here to the welding work center, and down here, the darker blues, it's going to fabrication. And then these lighter blue colors, these are components. So I'm going to weld these together, do some fabrication on it, and that's the job. Something very simple. But notice this AP200 item, it has its own routing and bill of material. It's a subassembly. So APS, and looking at this, if I'm going to order some AP100s and I don't have any on hand, what would it do? I would have to see, well, do I have time in the work center for welding? Do I have time in the work center for fabrication? Do I have these materials? Do I have to make the subcomponent? Do I have to issue materials for that? Do I have to purchase materials for that? So that gives you a sense of real simple routing and bill. So let's say I've got a customer on the phone. I'm now over to the estimating system. I've got coordinated bicycles, and they've asked me about that item, that AP100, and they want to know, can I buy 15? I'd really like those to ship today. Just to work here, there we go. I'd like it to ship today. Do you have 15 that you can ship to me today? Well, I could go into looking at inventory or pick up the phone and call somebody, or I can just hit this button. Tell me if I'm capable to promise. That's what CTP stands for. Am I capable to promise 15 of these on this date? I click that button. You got a little dialog box up here in a moment. Okay, getting a bit of a lag.
And that's doing a lot, I guess, in the background as well. That's why sometimes
it's terrible that it paused like that because it's usually almost instantaneous. I'm going to close it and click it again. There were 3 seconds, but typically it's 1-2 seconds for this to figure out, even on complex bills. So it came back and said, okay, you want it to ship today? We can do it. So it said accepted, do it, and you just say yes. But what is it doing? Well, I'm going to check out quantities. And this tells me, oh, they're requesting 15. I've got 25 unallocated in inventory right now. So just like that, I can see, okay, I can promise the guy 15, no problem. I've got 25. So what happens if he orders more than 25? Let's say he orders 50. Going to reprice that, and now I'll ask it, can I still promise today? It says, oh no, it's now due on the 27th of March. That's a week and a half away, 2 weeks away. Well, why? Well, you and I already know we only had 25 on the shelf. That means it's got to make 25 more. This is where you get to see sort of the heart of APS. I'm going to open up plan detail. And this is blowing through, let's shrink this down, here we go. This is blowing through the required operation steps for every level of the BOM. So at the top level, I have my welding and my fabrication. And within that, I've got the materials that I need to either purchase or assemble. If I open this up, I've got some AC100s in inventory, but I need a new purchase order for additional 18. I've got some AC1s in inventory, but I need a new purchase order for an additional 16. And the AP200s, I need to make them. So I have a routing and a bill to manufacture that product. Now, your order entry clerk generally wouldn't look at all of this detail. Although I should bring up one other thing. There's a cool thing you can do here, which is show this to me in a Gantt chart. So I can see from the bottom up, my longest problem is this AC201. Open that up. That's a purchased item, and it's got a lead time of whatever that is, about 10 days. And I can see, hey, if I could shorten the lead time on that item, I could bring in everything else and get this done earlier. So your order entry clerk can look at this. They can pick up the phone and call purchasing and say, can we fix the lead time on an AC201? Can I move this in at all? But this is the sort of thing that they're going to see in seconds without them having to run around the shop and ask 50 people 50 questions. So back over here, if I'm willing to accept that, I just say yes. Now this is an estimate. Now the estimate does not actually allocate material or capacity, but a customer order looks identical to this. And if I ran this in a customer order and said yes, at that instant in time, it would allocate all the material and the capacity necessary to make this item. So the next order entry clerk trying to make an AP100 isn't going to steal from me. I hope that makes sense to everybody.
It does.
That's one of the user experiences. Now I want to show you some other experiences if you're more on the planner side. This is order entry here, but say the planner walks up to his desk. I'll make this a little bit bigger. This is the workbench for the planner to use to have a glimpse into everything that APS has come up with. Now, keep in mind, APS does a lot. It's planning materials, it's creating exception messages on materials that you don't need, it's planning jobs, it's planning transfer orders between warehouses or other facilities, because you may have a facility on the East Coast that you build product for and ship to them and they sell it from there. So all of that kind of interaction between all your demand and all your supply is being manipulated, managed, and analyzed by APS. And as a result, we get what you see here. I can see that I've got different late orders. One of the great things you can do with CSI is manage by exception. I don't need to look at every order. I only need to look at the ones that are late, right? So I can see right off the top, I've got some safety stock replenishment, 11 products that are late on safety stock. I've got transfer orders to other warehouses. 17 of those are late. My master production schedule has 30 late releases, and my customer orders has 18 past due customer orders. So at a glance, I can look at this and go, what do I need to attack first? I may think, well, my customer orders are the most important thing. So I can come over here, click late orders, filter this for customer orders versus, and I'll just point out, versus any other type of demand that you may have out there. Transfer orders, projects, jobs on the floor, safety stock orders, master production schedules, all of these things. But I'm just going to look at customer orders because if I can satisfy my customers, I can satisfy my boss. So this listing shows me all my customer orders based on how many days late there are. So it's sorted latest to earliest, 0 days late. What is it looking at? It's looking at the due date on the customer order and APS's projected date. Remember the diagram I showed you where it had to forward plan it, came out with a projected date that was later than the due date. That's this date you see right here. So this item is 22 days late. And I'm going to pick a particular item. This guy. This guy's 11 days late right now. So if I wanted to see why, He's 11 days late. I can drill into the same detail form that order entry had. And I can see, oh, this is using jobs. Sorry, I picked the wrong example. I apologize. Let me pick the right example. This one should be it. Yeah. So the same sort of diagram that you saw before, showing me my operations, my materials, my delays in red. So it's waiting 2 days for this operation. It's waiting 30.33 days for this operation. Down here, we got a 13-day slack. So all of these things add up to the due date that we see and why we're late. So again, your planner can attack this and try to figure out, well, what could I pull in to make these dates go away? But this is an incredibly useful screen because you want to focus on the things that are the latest, the things that have not shipped yet, and get them out the door and get caught up. So this demand summary screen is a powerful, powerful tool for doing that. Also, back here on our workbench, I can go over here to resource group bottlenecks. And I can say, I want to see what products are bottlenecked at what resources. So this is my assembly area here. In fact, let's pick on this one. This is a little simpler to look at. So this is my final assembly area, which I have set up as a finite group. And there are 3 demands, 2 customer orders and 1 transfer order that are bottlenecked at final assembly that need to be kicked through. So again, we're managing by exception using the great data that APS has generated for us and just going, hey, look at me, fix this problem. I can only tell you have a problem. I can't hire the people or ask people to work overtime, but you can. So APS is giving you that alert, that warning on any demand that you're looking at or any resource group to determine what you need to unstick. And just for grins, come over here to load profile if you're kind of curious about, well, how are things doing? And let's say I want to see the load for the next, 6 weeks for this particular group. And then it graphically shows me for each week what the load is in that group. And notice the legend over here on the far right. So this group is loaded, what is that? It's almost 90%.
Yep.
Mainly with jobs that are released to the floor and scheduled, that's the blue, but also with jobs that APS wants you to run this week and you haven't released yet, that's the green, and jobs that are out there because of forecasts, which we deprioritize in most cases because you want to get your customer orders filled first before you build to forecast. So I may want to see more detail than this, and I can say, okay, well, let's change that to 14 days. Now I can see on a day-by-day basis what my load is and what it's made up of down here. So all of this is cool for that exception messaging side of things. Where do I have overloads? Where am I late? Where are my material shortages? And certainly you want to handle that. But what about the things that are not late? It's just, hey, APS says you need to buy this, or APS says you need to build this. We have this incredible tool called the Material Planner's Workbench. The Material Planner Workbench looks into the mind of APS, in this case, looking at purchase orders. You could also look at jobs and other types of orders. And it comes back and says, according to APS, this is everything you need to buy. Now, I could just say, these are the things I need to buy today or this week. Get a different list here, or as far into the future as I wish to look. That doesn't do me any good, but certainly this week, any purchase orders I want to get out this week, I should do that. I'm way behind. I've got lots of open purchase planned POs. I keep running jobs and stuff, and I don't have any buyers. I should go hire some buyers. But you can see here at a glance that APS is saying, hey, this resin, that's the part number. It's got a lead time of 5 days. You should release it today. It'll arrive on the 17th. We need 98 pounds. It costs $65 a pound, and you buy it from vendor number 7. I could change the vendor on the fly. I might have an alternate vendor. You see this up here, alternate vendor. This vendor is $65 with a 5-day lead time. Might have an alternate vendor who was more expensive with a less lead time. And that would show there. I can sort by any of these columns. I can filter the system. I can say, I just want to see anything I'm buying from Brunswick Hardware. So I can come in here and do a filter, put in Brunswick Hardware, unfilter that. And now I've got 11 items in the workbench that all come from the same vendor. They have potentially different dates. In this case, they're all the same. And I could put items together. So I've got 2 different demands based on setup. I wanted to order these separately. Or I might come in and say, no, let's order 180 at the same time, and let's delete this line from the workbench. So I've just changed what I've told the system to do for me. And now, if I agree with all of this, I could process specific lines, or I could say I want to process all the lines through a given date. But whatever I've checked off, I hit generate orders, and now it's going to go create a purchase order for me. I didn't have to do the research. I didn't have to go find the jobs on the floor and what materials are required and where that is in the bill of material and what vendor I buy it from. I let APS do all of that work. And I just came back here and said, what do I have to work on? All right, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing.
So we have 15 more minutes, Mark, right now.
Great.
Yeah.
What other questions do you have?
So we just have one follow-up question. And guys, if you're not able to follow along, if you have any sort of questions, again, you can post in the Q&A or chat. So we have one follow-up comment from Robert, and I think he was talking about the question. If you want, I can read the question again. I think this was related to the customer order plan versus the month-out plan. I don't know if you remember the question, but the follow-up here is you gave the example not to act on a launch that is a month out. How do you identify if this planned launch is not associated with a customer order that is projecting late? This is a multi-level BOM situation and other required material is causing the delay.
So APS makes that relationship automatically that this job is required for this customer order. And if I read between the lines of what you're asking, we're pushing the job out because we have materials required that have a long lead time. If we can expedite the materials, we could have pushed that job in. And that was the enhancement I spoke of earlier that we did for a customer on this particular screen, saying this is the due date and the required quantity for you to release this order on this date. But because there are some long lead time items, if you want to meet the original customer order date, we added a column here saying this is the date you would have to release this PO in order to have any chance of meeting the original customer order date, because you have to expedite something that's a long lead time. So we can handle that problem if you want to pull that job in. There's a lot more to this besides that statement, because when I'm doing the order entry, maybe during order entry, I'm told, hey, the customer wants this on the 1st of April, but the earliest we can do it is the 30th of April. You as an order entry person can check a box that says, okay, I'm going to accept that as the due date for now, but the requested date is the 1st of April, and I want the APS engine to try to pull it up. So he checks a box called pull up order, and every time APS runs at night, it sees if it can meet the request date or gets any closer to it. And then it pulls in the job for you. At the same time, you should be working behind the scene to cut the lead time on long lead time purchase goods. I hope that handles the question. Feel free to call me or email me, and you and I can have a dialogue on the side, because I feel like I'm not thoroughly answering what you're asking.
Yeah, and Robert, if you have any follow-up comments there based on the answer that Mark has provided, feel free to comment. We have some more questions and comments, Mark, if we want to get through them right away.
Sure.
I don't think we are going to have time. So here, Brendan is saying sight lines, just-in-time manufacturing is very helpful for cash flow and inventory carry cost, but occasionally we don't want to wait to order shorter lead time items. Is it possible to bypass the JIT functions to order all needed material as soon as the demand is received?
Um, you can certainly do that manually. Absolutely. I can go to that job and look at the material list. There's a feature in Sightline where you can cross-reference the PO to the line, and that makes it really fast. I can just go through the line items, cross-reference the PO, and be done with it. Otherwise, you'd have to print out a BOM list and create the POs. Or, I should also point out, here in the material planner workbench, those future purchased items are going to show up. Just depends how far out into the future you look. If I go all orders here, for example, oh, I've got this filtered just for this one. Then let's fix that. So now when I look at the dates to release the order, here I'm out, well, that's old. Here I'm into April. Let's, in fact, sort this by the release date. Most of these 312. Here we go. So here we've got orders that are not really due to be released until July, August, September, but I can come in here and release them. No problem.
Yeah, and for this question mark, I guess I thought there is generally a flag at the item level if you want to bypass MRP. This would qualify under that functionality. I thought Sightline also had that functionality, right?
It does. It has a flag to make the item infinite or to make the item an MRP item and not use APS
Yeah.
for that item. It does have those features, yes.
Okay, so I think
It also has, and this is important, it has what's called an expedited lead time. So you might have a normal lead time in for the item of 60 days, but you could expedite it to 15. And so the system will try to use the expedited lead time in order to meet the customer's due date.
yeah. All right. If you have any other follow-up comments there, Brandon, please feel free to ask. We have one more question here. This assumed that all operators are populating the operations correctly. What if they don't? And that this means the planning is now incorrect. So that would be my assumption that obviously, if you want accurate data and accurate planning from APS, the data entry has to be correct. Otherwise, you are getting into ramifications, and sometimes that is very harder to predict. Right, Mark?
Absolutely. If you want your check, well, we don't use checkbooks anymore. I show my age. If you want your checkbook to balance, you got to put the values in and line
Yeah.
up the columns. If you don't put the values in, you don't show what your balance is. This is not only true of APS, it's true of MRP.
Yeah.
They say for MRP to be useful, your routings have to be 90% accurate. Your inventory has to be 99% accurate. That's the same factors for APS. Because if you're asking it to tell me if I can ship this product and your inventory says you have 100 components on the shelf when you have 3, well, the order entry clerk's not going to know that. It's going to say, yes, you can ship it. And then the material handler goes back there to pick it and finds out I can't do it. And now all hell breaks loose because the customer order is going to be late. So yes, data integrity and data housekeeping is critical, but it's not just for APS. It's for your accounting system. It's for the whole system. I call it, somebody's got to feed the beast. Somebody's got to sit there and
Yeah.
do the transactions and set up the routings and put in the right lead times and create the purchase orders and do the receivings. If those things aren't done, it becomes inaccurate.
Yeah, perfect, Mark. So we have 8 minutes. I mean, obviously, we are going to have a lot of questions and comments, but if you want to cover anything in 8 minutes, you can do that.
I had a few more slides, but I'm going to quickly zoom through. I don't think I'm going to bore this audience with this. And this is to the point we just mentioned. It's arguable what the exact numbers are here, but if you're 100% accurate, it's going to work every time.
Yeah.
And then just some key things. APS is a way of thinking about the system. It's not a clerical function. People have to understand how these parameters are affecting the planning engine, how your routing times affect it, how you've set up your resources and resource groups, how all these things work together. to create the output that you're looking for. So people have to go through training on APS. They need to read the manual, and it's not an easy manual to read. It's probably about 275 pages. But each time you read it, you're going to find out more and more tools that allow you to deploy APS more and more effectively. Excuse me. A lot of folks I've seen have jumped out to spreadsheets and they do their
Yeah.
planning out there. Make APS work for you. At the end of the day, it's going to save you an enormous amount of time. And key to that, not bypassing the system, they tend to jump out to spreadsheets if there's a problem that they can't figure out within APS. Then they go to start recording their purchase orders in spreadsheets or whatever the case may be. Well, don't do that. Fix the problems as you find them. Find the expert. Find the people who can fix it, who can direct it. Don't let the system go stale because you keep bypassing the problem. And everybody who touches it has this job. So I wanted to say that because we've seen environments where we've successfully implemented APS and then we come back a couple of years later and it's not working anymore because the new people came in, they didn't get trained, they didn't have proper procedure, they didn't solve the problems, and they abandoned it. And that's an enormous value to abandon. So these are the points I really stress with every customer. That's the end of my PowerPoint. We got more questions?
So we don't have any more questions, guys. If you have any follow-up questions or comments, you can still post those. So we just have 5 minutes. I can ask some questions if you like, Mark. I have a million questions. I mean, we can probably spend 3 more hours here.
Yeah, we can have coffee and have a chat.
Yeah, but I mean, we need to invite you back, I guess. We are going to have more discussions like this. If you guys are interested in any specific topics, obviously let us know. We will plan for those as well. We are always trying to bring value to you guys, whether it is going to be Sightline, generalized ERP topics, or any other vendors. This is a shared community, I guess, slightly more agnostic community. So we cover a lot of them. So my question to you, Mark, would be that, okay, let's say if you have this data integrity problem, people-related problem, you talk to 10 different vendors and they all are going to have their own arguments and how they can solve this. But for the most part, when you have data integrity problem, I don't know if anybody can really solve. These are all going to be very change management issues, training, adoption. That's how I personally like to bucket it. But let's say if you have, and I don't know if you guys have seen a lot of MES in the mix, and that is a very common argument as well with manufacturers. A lot of them have a real MES. Sometimes, and obviously, you are going to say that obviously Sightline has MES, but sometimes customers are going to use their third-party MES. So
Sure.
in those cases, let's say if operators are not entering the data, in your experience, let's say if the MES is reading these machines directly, have you seen any improvements there with that sort of architecture configuration as opposed to just doing inside Sightline?
Are you referring to IoT where the MES is reading the CNC machine directly or the molding machine directly?
Yeah, we are taking out human equation from data entry perspective. That, okay, they can hopefully read data automatically as opposed to relying on human operators. Human operators is where the major problem is, I guess. So there could be two possibilities. Either we train them or we bypass them and get that data somehow.
Sure. So I've seen that sort of IoT work well in repetitive environments,
Yeah.
where we set the machine up, walk away, and it just runs, right? And we don't really care to trap the employee's time for setup or monitoring the machine. The main cost is the cost of the machine itself. So yeah, that makes a highly efficient, highly accurate data collection environment. But as you walk away from highly repetitive into more job shop oriented, engineer order, custom configured to order, more of the employee time that's important. And what the employee has to report. Yes, I was able to assemble those 3 boards, or I was able to use so many feet of this material. So in many environments we just can't seem to get away from having to have the person do the reporting. So in that case, yeah, we walked over to training, supervision, and sometimes rewards and penalties. Hey, the guy got 100% of his recordings done, he gets an extra dollars in his bonus, or this guy missed 50% of his transactions, he gets a penalty of some sort.
Yeah, perfect. Again, if you guys have any follow-up questions, we still have like a minute right now. I don't think we can take any more questions. So Mark, what are we looking at here? What is this QR code? Are we getting like $5,000 check here if I sign?
That's right. That's right. And it sucks all the data off your phone. I believe this just takes you to our website.
Okay, just are there any other resources that people can check out by any chance related to APS on your side? Do you want to talk about that? Or we can wrap the session?
Well, of course, we do have a YouTube channel we invite you to visit. We've got our website, which has lots of data, or you can just call us anytime. And, happy to chat with you guys about any questions you have on APS, your plans, your challenges, wherever the case may be. Feel free to reach out to us.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much once again, Mark. This has been a great session, very educational, very informative. And I'm personally always learning from you. You know a lot. Hopefully everybody learned a lot as well. Again, this was part of our Elevate IQ webinar series. We are doing lots and lots of webinars. Our goal is to bring as much educational material across enterprise software categories, across vendors. So watch out for those webinars as well. Again, the best way to know about those webinars would be events and webinar page on elevateiq.com, as well as our newsletter. On that note, thank you so much once again, Mark, for doing this for us.
Thanks for putting this together. I really enjoyed doing it. I hope it was worth everybody's time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you once again. And thank you, everybody, for dialing in. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.